was wondering which machine the rage is against.
Machine can be anything from like from the police on the streets of Los Angeles who can pull motorists from their cars and beat them to a pulp and get away from it. State capitalist machinery that tries to make you just a mindless cog and to, have not to think critically and never to confront the system, but just to kind of behave and look forward to the weekend and the next six-pack of beer.
Their message has been loud and clear.
I am your president of law and order.
And it is one that corrupt elitists like this man despise.
As long as you have people in the Supreme Court who remain to try to pass their quote-unquote morality over the masses, I think it's wrong. And whether anyone agrees with abortion or not, it's wrong.
They are outspoken in the face of pure evil, no matter the institution.
Public trust and approval of the court have hit historic lows due to seemingly partisan decisions and a growing number of ethics scandals.
And no matter the political party.
Our democracy has been hijacked! Brothers and sisters! Country are over so long as it's controlled by corporations. We are not going to allow these streets to be taken over by the Democrats or the Republicans.
Like when Rage performed across the street in protest of the DNC in the year 2000. Outside the Staples Center in Los Angeles.
Despite the fact that Rage's far-left politics are written clearly all over their music,
this is what it's about. Pay heed to their words. Whether in interviews or songs, the meanings are symbolic of the people's quest for liberation.
Well, because I think that in living in the States, you're living in one of the most brutal societies in the history of the world.
History lessons take place through artistic demonstrations. They've dedicated songs to shutting down Wall Street through anti-capitalistic measures, shining a spotlight on the continued practices of police brutality in the intersection of precincts with a history of white supremacy. The bloated payments defense contractors receive straight out of our pockets to fund endless wars, and so much more, including...
I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me. They don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
And they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me.
American racism. The disenfranchisement of Native Americans and resistance.
Are you familiar with Leonard Peltier?
Yes.
Okay. Leonard Peltier was convicted of killing two FBI
All right, now we're going on.
Recall this squabble between Jon Stewart and Bill O'Reilly. The main focus is the man Stewart mentioned.
Leonard Peltier is a North American Indian extradited from Canada, largely on the basis of fabricated evidence. He was tried in the United States and convicted of the killing of 2 FBI agents in a shootout on a South Dakota reservation 12 years ago. To the American judicial system, Peltier is just a murderer. But big questions remain about FBI tactics during the trial. As a result, a campaign to win Peltier's freedom has involved church and government leaders in many parts of the world.
Peltier was a member of the American Indian Movement, AIM, founded in 1968 during the Civil Rights Movement to advocate for the rights of Native Americans. The murders occurred at a time when AIM supporters and residents of Pine Ridge were being intimidated and killed, allegedly by paramilitaries connected to the government.
A Washington, D.C. rally is calling for the release of Leonard Peltier.
Peltier is a former member of the American Indian Movement who was convicted of killing 2 FBI agents during a shootout on South Dakota's Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in 1975. He's long maintained his innocence.
After 2 AIM members were acquitted of the killings, the FBI coerced witnesses into saying they saw Peltier shoot the agents. Ballistics evidence that could have aided Leonard's defense was hidden from his lawyers.
According to Peltier's attorney, Kevin Sharp, who left the bench and took up Peltier's case pro bono, there are many flaws in it.
The level of misconduct was open and obvious, and really bothered me as an officer of the court.
If unaware, Peltier was convicted of killing 2 FBI agents in a jury trial in 1977. This is what the United States government and media members point to in order to squash any conversation and conclude he had a fair trial and deserves to rot.
They say, quote, Arguments that Peltier did not receive a fair trial have been repeatedly heard by the U.S. District Court, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the U.S. Supreme Court. None have obviously prevailed. You're now pushing for President Biden to grant clemency. What is the basis for that?
You know, one of the things they don't say is that they didn't engage in the misconduct. What they say is the courts upheld the conviction in spite of their misconduct, but it also required them to change their theory. Their theory had been that Mr. Peltier shot these agents. Once it was discovered that they hid exculpatory evidence, which is required to be turned over under the case of United States versus Brady.
Let's pause here. Specifically, what is that evidence that was hidden? Senator Mazie Hirono would write in a letter on behalf of Peltier to President Biden that prosecutors withheld critical exculpatory evidence, namely a ballistics report that proved shell casings from the murder weapon did not come from a rifle tied to Mr. Peltier. From the week this was discovered by Peltier's attorney in 1980 after an FOIA request was submitted. Another key piece of evidence via Amnesty International. At his trial, the prosecution alleged that the rifle which killed the agents belonged to Leonard Peltier. During post-trial investigations, the defense team discovered a telex message suggesting that the rifle in question contained a different firing pin from the one used to kill the agents. This was raised on appeal, and an evidentiary hearing held at which the significance of the telex was contested by the government. Britannica sums it up perfectly. Among the many controversies associated with the Peltier case are these. There are no known witnesses to the deaths of the FBI agents. The gun that fired the fatal shots is not known. The identification of the vehicle that led agents to Jumping Bull is in question, and the FBI has admitted to withholding thousands of documents pertaining to the case. Another piece of info from Hirono and other senators calling for Peltier's release is their findings that the FBI intimidated and threatened a key eyewitness to the shootings. The courts would reject petitions for a new trial over and over again. His lawyers, like many, thought it was nonsensical for the man to serve 2 life sentences because, quote, on the basis of findings of judicial error in the original trial, fabrication of evidence, suppression of favorable evidence, coercion of witnesses, and the U.S. government's admission of fraudulent behavior. The top prosecutor in the case, James Reynolds, would claim Peltier was wrongfully convicted of the 75 double murder of FBI agents. He'd write to President Barack Obama advocating for clemency. President Obama did not heed those calls.
Once that was discovered, it was a ballistics test that showed Leonard Peltier did not shoot the agents. And so they changed their theory to one of aiding and abetting and said, well, he was there, along with about 40 other people. Yes, he was there. And so the standard of review was different at that time. Now, finding that kind of a constitutional violation would never be upheld. There was also a juror who admitted on day 2 that she was prejudiced against Native Americans, allowed to stay on the jury. That would never be upheld today. It's why James Reynolds, who was the U.S. attorney who took over the case, agrees that would never be upheld in a court today. This clemency needs to be granted.
Rage would see all this, study it, compose the track, and make their message clear once again. The song title, Freedom. It's the 10th song on the band's self-titled album, Rage Against the Machine, released in 1992. Speaking to Rolling Stone in 1995, frontman Zach De La Rocha would say, I believe in this band's ability to bridge the gap between entertainment and activism. Leonard Peltier is a political prisoner, but he's much more than that. He symbolizes the continuance of the U.S. genocidal policy that's been perpetrated against the native peoples of this country. On April 29th, 1994, Rage Against the Machine, along with the Beastie Boys, Cypress Hill, and X, would hold a benefit concert for Peltier. Years later.
Hello, this is Tom Morello, sending love and support to Leonard Peltier and all of his supporters. We must continue the fight to free Leonard Peltier, a true American hero. His struggle as a freedom fighter and as a prisoner of war is one that is very important and central to the core of the American injustice system. So Leonard, we love you, man. We're behind you. We will never stop fighting until you're free.
In 2015, Morello, along with Carlos Santana, Robbie Robertson, Chris Christopherson, Harry Belafonte, Peter Gabriel, Jackson Brown, Irene Bedard, Bonnie Raitt, and many more joined the I Will campaign calling for Peltier to be granted clemency. Morello, DJ Free Leonard Peltier, and the political prisoner himself would release a song titled Traditional Way of Life in 2021. It's streaming everywhere. As of March 2024, Hawaii Senator Brian Schatz, a Democrat, wrote a letter to Merrick Garland calling for the compassionate release of Peltier. It was signed by Hirono, Ed Markey, Bernie Sanders, Tina Smith, Elizabeth Warren, and Peter Welch. This is what I love about bands like this. Because you think you understand the song, you think you get the meaning, but then once you go a little deeper and a little deeper, the song just gets flipped up on its head, and you also get completely turned around internally. And it makes you go deeper and deeper and deeper to truly understand where they are coming from. And hopefully now you do.